Hey, what's going on, everyone? Well, there we go. So, I thought I would talk to everyone about how my upcoming book, Tales from the Forbidden Forest, came to be. Normally, like I did with my previous release, I would do a live stream on Instagram and then I would just bring the live stream over here. Well, I did a lot of talking, I did a lot of responding to people, I had quite a few people chat, and I kind of went off the rails a couple times. So, YouTube is getting an exclusive video this time around. So, my upcoming release, Tales from the Forbidden Forest, is a two-in-one book of sorts. It is part my fifth novella, and it is part my second short story collection. The reason this story came to be, depending on how you look at things, I'm either being super creative or I'm being super lazy. Whichever one anyone wants to choose, that's up to you. I feel that I wrote something good here. I feel like I did something different from what I normally do. So to those who think it's lazy, then you think it's lazy. I think I was being creative. So 2018 is when I started doing more anthology submissions, just trying to network, get to know some more people, seeing what all I could write outside of poetry. And I found out about one company that does first come, first serve anthologies instead of submitting or buy-ins or invites, you name it. And this publishing company had an idea for a horror release for Halloween 2019 with the theme of abhorrence. I was just wanting to get my name out there, so I signed up for every single thing I could. Well, 2019 rolls around and I hit my goal of 35 anthology publications by August. So, time rolls around, I'm nearing the deadline for submitting my story for this abhorrence anthology. I have nothing. I have spent so much time submitting to other anthologies, working on a poetry book, working on my yet to be released second novel, working on another novella that's hopefully going to be out soon. I didn't have anything. So the person in charge of this particular anthology, I'm friends with on Facebook. I send her a message and I say, hey, I got a problem. I don't think I'm going to be able to have something ready in time for the deadline. I might have to drop out of this one. So shortly after that, I get a message from her. She said, please come up with something. We've already had a couple dropouts. We're literally one dropout away from either having to cancel this book or push it back to next year in hopes of getting more people signed up. Can you please come up with something so we don't have to do either of those? And I informed her, I have nothing written. I don't have an outline. I don't even have an idea on what I want to write. So she asked me if she could give me an idea. I'm like, all right, I'm open to it. What you got? She reminded me that earlier in the year, I was part of this publisher's anthology on the Demons of Solomon. I submitted 3 short stories for it, and unfortunately, one of the authors breached their contract, and the book got pulled after 6 weeks of being published. So the person in charge told me, hey, a couple of people are going to be using their Demons of Solomon stories, either expanding upon them or doing something with them for this and 2 other anthologies we're working on. Do something with one of those. So I go on my computer, open up my folder of all my short stories I've had published, and I pull up those 3 stories. 2 of them really involve causing some havoc and some mayhem on humans. And the other one is someone encouraging witchcraft. I felt like that one wasn't necessarily abhorrent enough. So I'm looking at the 2 that I have that could fit this, and I'm like, there's a problem. I feel like I told the story I wanted to tell with both of these with the amount of words that I was told I had to use. I don't want to expand upon either of these, because if I do, I'm just throwing words in here to make sure it fits the word count for the anthology. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, all right, what's something I can do? All right, these 2 are part of the Demons of Solomon. What if these 2 demons know each other? What if they tell each other, hey, guess what I did to the humans recently? Oh, that's nothing. I did worse. So once I had that idea, I'm like, all right, I got something. So I start looking through my short story folder again. I'm like, all right, I know I've written stories about demons before. These are not the only 2 demon stories I've got. So I'm looking through my stuff, and my story for Evil Lurks, compiled by Sammy Sands, involved a demon. I was like, all right, I got this. I just need to check with Sammy, make sure she doesn't have any plans to make Evil Lurks free anytime soon, so I can do what I need to. So I send her a message. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to put together a short story. I'm going to fuse a bunch of stuff together, and I want to put Anzu Rediscovered from Evil Lurks in this fusion story I'm doing. And she's like, all right, cool. Let me know when it's out so I can share it. Like, awesome. So I put that in there. I'm like, all right, I need to do some introduction to show that these demons know each other. I already had an idea for the ending, so I'm like, all right, there's the ending. Little pieces in between to connect all the stories together. And I still didn't have the word count I needed, because all 3 stories are flash fiction stories. It's like, all right, I need one more story. What's something I can use? So I'm looking through my folder one more time, and I come across a short story that didn't get published. I had written a story about evil vultures for an anthology that ended up getting canceled. So I'm looking at this story, I'm like, all right, I've got something here. How can I make these demons, though? And I thought about it for a minute, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about whether or not they're demons or not. I'm going to make them Satan's personal pets. So now they have a reason to know these demons, and they can share their story with the demons. I got this. So I now have 4 of my short stories. I've got the pieces in between each short story. It's now pretty much at novelette length. So I'm like, yes, I've got something. So I fuse everything together, send it, they give me back the edits. I go through the edits, everything looks good. Book comes out. And compared to some of the other stuff I was in at the time, this one very much flew under the radar. And it kind of sucked, because even though this was me just trying to put something together to meet a deadline, I was actually pretty happy with what I did. It's like, I managed to put something together in a quick amount of time. I managed to add some stuff to it. So I'm sitting here promoting it, sharing it, and nothing. After 6 months, the exclusivity deal ends, and the publisher chooses to pull the book because it didn't sell that well. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, all right, I am doing something with this. One way or another, I'm putting this back out. So I'm looking through my stories again, And when I'm looking at my stories, I get an email. And the email is from another publisher I worked with, Nocturnal Sirens. I had submitted a couple of travels for their anthology, Fatal Fairies. So I get the email saying that I got accepted for Fatal Fairies. Yay! And then I realized something. I wrote a demon story for them for Scary Snippets Halloween. So after I get the email confirming that I got accepted, I give one of the people in charge, Ann M. Brown, a message on Facebook. I'd ask her about when I could start sharing that I got accepted for Fatal Fairies. So I sent her a message, and she's pretty much responded right away. It was like, oh yeah, start sharing it. Let people know you're in it. I was like, cool. And since you're online, I need to ask a quick question / favor. She's like, what's up? I was like, my story that I wrote for Scary Snippets Halloween. I'm currently putting together something that's going to either be a novelette or a novella. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to fall at. I want to put my Scary Snippets Halloween story into this giant overarching story that I'm putting together. Is that okay? Who all do I need to credit? So on and so forth. She pretty much gave me the okay right there and informed me that she was the one who edited my story, so that was who I needed credit, was her. So, Natalie, whenever you're watching this, thank you very much for allowing this. So then I start putting everything together, and this novella is pretty short. I mean, we're talking shorter than Dream Awake, which is probably my shortest fiction release so far. So I'm thinking to myself, I need to do something because one of the biggest complaints I've had has been that some of my books are too small. So I'm looking through it and I remembered those Demons of Solomon stories, they're out of print. I've got the rights back to them. I wrote another short story where the book went out of print. So that means I got the rights to that. I just got permission to go on ahead and use my Scary Snippets Halloween story. On top of that, I've got a couple of travels that I had sent to Black Hair Press that got rejected. And when I showed it to a couple of people in one of the review groups I'm in, no one really had anything negative to say about the two that got rejected. And in the case of one of them, it was just a thing of Dean was only accepting 10, and I have no idea how many he gets per month for Dark Travels, or for the Dark Moments. So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, all right, I'll do the novella itself, and I'll make it a short story collection. So then I'm looking through my stuff. I'm like, all right, I can add this, I can add this, I can add this, I can add this. And then I'm looking at two other short stories I've got, and I'm like, you know, given that the main thing itself, Tales from the Forbidden Forest, has some dark humor in it, my stories I wrote for Malediction have some dark humor in them. It's about a cannibal who turns people into pizza so people don't realize that he's eating people. I mean, that's B-movie at best right there. So I send Sammy a message again. I'm like, hey, I'm putting together my novella / short story collection. Can I include my Malediction stories? Because I know Malediction hadn't been out that long. If you follow Sammy, then you know that the anthologies are free from time to time on Amazon. So like, I gotta do something here. So I told her like my reasons for wanting to include them. She's like, yeah, sure. I did have to fix some stuff with both of those stories though, so can you give me credit in the book? I'm like, absolutely. So I've got those. I mainly got flash fiction stories. I've got two regular short stories, Warlock and the Pizza, and my other story is And Along Came Stullis. So now I want to put one more short story in there that's not flash fiction length. So I'm looking through my stuff and I have this story called Only the Beginning, which once again has the supernatural setting. There's a little bit of humor in it. And I'm like, all right, I've got this because it was supposed to be in an anthology that ended up getting canceled because of the current global situation. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, all right, I got this. Let me see if I can find someone that can edit it. And two of the editors that I normally work with aren't really able to take on a short story at the time because they're both working on their own stuff, because most of the editors I work with are writers in their own right, as well as editing novels and novellas and novelettes. They're not going to take on a 5,000 word short story when they're currently editing a 70,000 word novel. There's so many reasons why they wouldn't do that. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do what I did back in the day before I actually started making money from stuff. I'm going to go on Fiverr. So I found someone who has some pretty good credentials, has really good review scores. So I messaged the person. I'm like, hey, I've got a short story I need editing. I know supernatural horror stuff isn't exactly everyone's thing. You okay taking this one on? She said, absolutely, send it to me. I'll have it done in 5 days. Awesome. So the editor for my short story, Only the Beginning, Julianne, kept her word, had it edited in 5 days. And not only did she edit, she also critiqued it, gave me some feedback, told me what she liked about the story, told me what she didn't like about the story. I'm like, dang, she gave some really good feedback. And I don't normally get this from some of the editors I've worked with before. Nothing against the editors I've worked with in the past, but sometimes it's just a thing of, all right, send me the story, send me the money, I'll send it back once I'm done. So in this case, I ended up getting someone who was not only very reasonably priced, but also gave me good feedback, gave me good critique, did a really good job editing the stuff. So if you're watching this, thank you. So now I've got a short story collection / novella. Well, this year I've been doing, to anyone who's been following me throughout 2020, I've been putting out my books in pieces digitally, and then once everything's out, I do the print book. So I thought I'd go ahead and do that with this. So to anyone who checked out my short story collection, Demonic Bites, over the summer, the short story part of Tales from the Forbidden Forest is Demonic Bites, plus a couple extra, longer short stories. Because most of the stuff in Demonic Bites was flash fiction. This one you're getting 3 short stories that are not flash fiction. So now I've got a book ready. I finally have something ready to give everyone for a print release. Now I need a cover. When I realized what I was going to do with Demonic Bites, I was like, all right, I'm not going to pay a huge amount of money for something that's just going to be available digitally. At the time, I wasn't even sure if I was going to keep it up on Kindle that long. My thought process was, I'm just going to put something out to tide everyone over until the next release. So I'm going on Deposit Photos and Photoshop, and I'm looking at some stuff, and I see this one picture, and it's beautiful. It's got a sci-fi setting. It's got this beautiful blue water. I'm like, I'm turning this picture into something horrific. So I take out the satellite that's in the background, zoom in on one particular part, make the picture a little bit darker, and I change the beautiful blue water into a river of blood. I've got to say, I think I did pretty good designing my first, really taking time to design a cover. Because some of the stuff I've done in the past has been pretty much me just putting a stock photo out there and putting a banner, putting borders and banners on it, or just taking a picture with my phone. So this time around, I didn't do that. I straight up played with some stuff, tested out some ideas on what I could do for the cover, and I personally think the cover turned out pretty good. And the feedback I got has been probably a little too positive, because I now have people asking me, so what'd you do? You want to do my cover as well? I'm not doing covers. No. I am not an artist, I'm a writer. So we are not doing that. But yeah, that pretty much sums everything up. So I want to personally thank N.M. Brown at Nocturnal Sirens. I want to thank Sadie Sands, and I want to thank Julianne Gross for editing parts of what's in this book. Definitely got to give a shout out to N.M. Brown and Sammy for giving me permission to include stories that they could have easily said, no, you can't use that right now, we're promoting this book. And they were like, absolutely. So thank you to both of you for giving me permission at a time when you didn't have to. So by the time you're watching this, chances are Tales from the Forbidden Forest is either up or about to go up, so I hope everyone enjoys it. This is novella number 5 / short story collection number 2. Thank you for your time, and I will catch you on the next one.